Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review for you, as is usual. For this one we are going to stick to Scotland, but we're going to go to the Highlands this time, specifically to the Black Isle, a region that's very famous for its malt production back in the old days. So for this one we're going to return to the Black Isle Brewery on the south of this little peninsula, and we're going to have a taste of their blonde beer, which I believe is the most widely produced one that they do, actually, the one with the biggest volume produced, if you like. So as is usual with my reviews then, I'll take you through a brief history of the brewery. If you don't want to stick with me for that, just fast forward a few minutes into the video and you will get straight to the tasting. The brewery website is in the video description for you below, along with a link to my other Black Isle beer reviews. I believe this is the third one that I'm doing for you, and there will be two more added in the relatively near future. So anyway, as I mentioned to you, this brewery is from the Black Isle, which is to the north of the city of Inverness, the capital of the Highlands in Scotland, and this brewery is located on the south of the peninsula, which is also home to the Cromarty Brewery in the north in Cromarty Village. A very, very good brewery who I think you'll see very good things from in the future, incidentally, and these guys are a bit more established. These guys are a very, very good brewery, very well known for being the sort of organic craft brewery of Scotland, if you like. So the brewery was founded in 1998 when David Galwin converted a group of farm buildings at Munlochy into a brewery, and the farm is called the Allen Grange, and apparently this land that the farm is on, it was described as being of superior quality for the brewer and distiller by Sir Roderick Mackenzie, and this was back in his statistical account of the land in 1790. And interestingly as well, the name Allen Grange translates from Gaelic into English as a fertile field of corn, actually. Sorry, I'm slurring my words a little bit. But David has apparently worked in this region of Scotland for over 20 years, and he's firmly committed to its preservation. And his idea behind founding the brewery was that he was going to be able to offer a lot of the local pubs and things a very locally brewed beer, and there's been a lot of positive response to this so far. But for the first 11 years of the brewery's existence, they were brewing on a small 5-barrel brewing plant, but in winter 2008 they began to build a completely new 30-barrel plant with new buildings that had been built on the farm, the Allen Grange. And the construction work for this actually took about 18 months, but it increased the capacity of the brewery, the conditioning capacity, to 210 barrels. And the brewing is conducted by the team of Gareth Reid and Andrew Fraser. But they also have a new well in their new brewery as well, which allows them to source their brewing liquor. And they have 120 acres of land which they grow their own organic barley, which they can obviously use to malt the beer. And they also have a cow named Molly who gives them milk, and she also likes to eat the mash from the mash tun as well. So today they can apparently brew 10,000 litres of beer per day, which is packaged in bottles, casks or kegs, and they send their beer all across Scotland and the rest of the UK, and they export to various countries these days as well. I believe the latest thing was that they were exporting to Atlanta over in the USA, but you can visit the brewery for tours as well, and there's also a blog on the website as well where you can keep up to date on the latest goings on at the brewery. So check that out on the website, as I say, and that is a kind of brief history then of the Black Isle Brewery. Quite an interesting one, and quite unique in terms of Scottish craft brewing, because as I say, they're well known as being the organic craft brewing company. So just to list a few of the other beers that you can get from these guys, obviously you get the blonde beer, which is this guy here. It's a European style pale lager as they describe it. You get Goldeneye, which is the golden ale, Heather honey beer, which is obviously a kind of speciality honey beer, Hibernator, which is an oatmeal stout, Porter, which I will review for you in the future actually, Red Kite Ale, which I've already reviewed for you, that's a nice amber ale, the Scotch Ale, and you also get the Yellowhammer bitter beer as well. So let's move on to the tasting of this beer itself. This guy is a 4.5% blonde ale, and apparently it uses Herbrucker and also Hallertau hops from Germany. So I'll bring up the camera and just let you have a little quick look at the artwork on this one. It's the typical artwork that you expect of the Black Isle Brewery. All of their beers have this typical kind of thistle thing on here, just usually a different colour in the writing and in the sort of thistle head on this one. It has a little bit on the side here. It just says Black Isle Brewery is based near Inverness in the heart of the Scottish Highlands. We make a range of fresh, natural, organic beers from malted barley, wheat, water, hops and yeast. Beers brewed in paradise, and it's got David Galwin's signature just on the bottom of the beer here. And this is your standard Black Isle Brewery bottle cap. So if you do get to try these and you're a bottle cap collector like me, you will get a bit of a unique one with this. But all of them are they're all the same regardless of what beer you get from the Black Isle Brewery. So let's get this guy open and get on with the tasting. As you can see, a nice smoky opening with this beer. So we'll get it out and into the glass then. And this brewery, this is, as I say, this is my third review that I've done from these guys so far, and their beers, it's almost as if you get a kind of unique take on quite an established style with these guys, because obviously they do, you know, they've got the red kite ale, which is the amber ale, the hibernator, which I believe is the Scotch ale as well, and it gives you get a really nice kind of different take on it with it being an organic brewery. So as you can see, this guy, I'll just bring up the light for you to let you see it a bit better. You can see this guy's poured quite a nice pale golden straw colour. It's slightly opaque, but if I put my fingers behind it, you can see there is some level of transparency there. There's about a half finger of a quite frothy white head on this one, and not very much in the way of carbonation going up to the top there. You can see a few bigger bubbles, so I think this will be a fairly smooth beer actually. Maybe just have a little bit of a prickly carbonation to it, but let's give it a smell and see how we get on here. I'll put this light back down so you can see the beer nicely. So you can get a little bit of a kind of biscuity malt aroma from this guy. A nice kind of sweet bready aroma, maybe a little bit of yeast actually, but a biscuity bready aroma. It's got a little bit of caramel sweetness in there. There's a little bit of an almost nutty and kind of woody scent coming out of it as well, and it's got some nice grassy hop notes to it as well. But it definitely has a bit of citrusy character. It's got a really sweet kind of yeasty, nutty flavour that kind of underlines all of it actually. But it's got really nice earthy character. But that's very faint. It's mainly a kind of sweet, sort of caramelly, biscuity yeast that you're getting off this. Very nice. It's a very nice kind of blend of aromas, this one actually. But let's give it a taste and see how we get on here. Just get the last of this guy in here, as I always like to do with my beers. Just check that the camera isn't going to play up on me for the rest of the review. So there we are. So this is the blonde beer, as I say, I think it's the most widely produced one that they do, but a very, very nice beer. I've tried this a few times and it's cool to do the review for you. So to the Black Ale Brewery, cheers. Yeah, you're getting quite a sweet biscuity malt that comes out at the start of this. It's got a good bit of yeasty character in there, but it's mainly quite a big biscuity malt that comes out of this one in the first taste. As I've always noticed, the sort of trademark, sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. The trademark of the Black Ale Brewery is that all of their beers have this kind of dusty feel to them, and that's one thing I noticed when I was living in Germany with the organic beers that you can pick up over there. They have this really kind of unusual, slightly chalky and dusty mouthfeel, and the Black Ale Brewery definitely have that as well, and I really do like it actually. But in terms of the flavour of this one, it's definitely a nice kind of sweet biscuity malt that's opening with this one. There is a little bit of a yeasty character in there, and perhaps a kind of stronger element of caramel, but that biscuity caramelly malt is just giving you a kind of nice overlay of the a kind of blanket just over the tongue. There is a little bit of a kind of cereal, slightly spicy character that comes out on this one, just around the edges of the tongue actually. It's very nice. It's got a very interesting blend of flavours, and it actually tastes a little bit different from what I remember. I mean, I've not had this beer in about 18 months, 2 years, something like that, so it has been a good time since I've actually had this for you before. But yeah, I'd definitely stick with that. You've got a nice sweet biscuity malt base, a little bit of kind of stronger caramel in there, and just that kind of slightly spicy kind of grainy note that's coming out of the sort of grainy cereal spices you expect a little bit. As you move into the ending of the beer, you get a little bit more of the grassy character coming out. That kind of slightly spicy biscuity character just sits on the tongue there, and it kind of the spice actually grows a little bit as you move into the aftertaste. But in the end there, you're getting a little bit of a kind of grassy and sort of not a very juicy citricy character, but it kind of blends very well with the grassiness, if that makes sense. There's a wee bit of earthy character that comes out too, and just gives you a little bit of dryness on the back edges of the tongue there. But it's mainly a malty beer, this one. This for a blonde beer, it could be just a little bit hoppier, but it's very, very nice actually. And it's quite an easier drinking one. The sort of chalky mouthfeel in this one isn't quite as pronounced as I've experienced with some of the other the Black Isle beers, but it's still there, and it still actually adds a nice dimension to the beer. But I really do like just the nice little sweetness that you get from the front of this beer. Sometimes this one is more of a malty blonde beer, I should say that. Obviously some of the more hoppy blonde beers you'll get in Scotland, I mean you'll get Schiehallion, well that's more of a lager, but you will get Yarrow from Fine Ales, and you also get Borders Gold from Broughton Ales as well. They were a bit slightly more hoppy. If you're looking for a more malty golden Scottish ale, then this is probably one for you to go for in that regard. And as I say, it has that little extra dimension to it because it's organic, with that particularly unique mouthfeel that you get from these things. There is, as I said in the aroma, you pick up a little bit of a nutty mouthfeel to it, a sort of nutty aroma, and you're actually picking that up a little bit in the flavour as well. That just kind of comes towards the front of the tongue as the kind of aftertaste starts to build. There is a kind of nutty, slightly woody element to the flavour of this one, and it's another interesting dimension to the beer. This is probably one of the more complex ones that you'll get actually from the Black Isle Brewery, but it's a very, very nice beer. As I say, if you want a blonde ale that's a little bit more malty, then this is probably one that you want to check out. The mouthfeel in terms of this one, I definitely say it's quite mid-bodied. The carbonation is moderate. It has a little bit of a prickle actually on the beginning as you take in the beer, but it gradually smooths out actually, and that kind of gives way to this dusty mouthfeel that I talk about that you get as a typical trait of organic beers. But yeah, the carbonation, I should point out as well, does help to bring out just a little bit of that kind of cereal, slightly spicy and earthy feel that comes out of that there. It's a nice little element that just brings out a bit more of a complex flavour, if you like. There's a little bit of dry character just in the finish as well from the hoppy side of the beer, and this is when you get that kind of nice blend of the grassy and citric flavours that come out just on the end. They kind of sit just around the edge of the tongue, but this is a really quite a malty blonde ale in comparison to some of the more hoppy ones like Yarrow or Borders Gold and things like that. But I mean, as I say, if you like a nice malty golden ale, this is definitely one for you to check out, and it has an extra dimension to it because it is one of these organic beers. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. It's been cool to kind of think a little bit more about a beer that I've drunk a few times and to be able to review it for you here. The Black Isle Brewery are a very interesting brewery, so if you want something that's quite an established style but a little bit different, then you should really check these guys out. Those of you watching in America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, I'm pretty sure if you don't have them already, you will have them in the near future. They're starting to export their beers quite widely now, so you soon will be able to enjoy them. But as I always say, if you have tried this beer yourself, please let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on it. I do like having that kind of input into my channel, and I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Please subscribe if you've enjoyed it, and there will be more to follow. And as I always say, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff, and I will catch you soon with another beer review. Cheers.